Jude Neale is a very accomplished performer, Canadian poet, vocalist, spoken word performer, and mentor. Ooh, mentors. I like mentors. Jude publishes frequently in journals, anthologies, and e-zines. She was shortlisted, highly commended, and a finalist for many international competitions. Jude has written 8 books, with A Quiet Coming of Light, a poetic memoir from Leaf Press, finalist for the Pat Lowther Memorial Award. One of Jude's poems from her book, Splendid in Its Silence, was chosen by Britain's poet laureate to ride with other winners around the Channel Islands on public transit for a year. Wow! This book was recently an SPM Prize winner and was published in the United Kingdom. Jude has also been a featured reader at the Guernsey International Literary Festival. Some of these poems can be heard on Jude's collaborative EP, Places Beyond. Jude and Bonnie Nish started an online collaboration which led them to write Cantata in 2 voices, ecstasis editions, in 50 challenging days. Jude's 2 new books, A Blooming, ecstasis editions, and We Sing Ourselves, published in 2019. Her 8th book, Impromptu, was launched in the spring. Meanwhile, Jude has returned from a successful collaboration with the renowned composer and viola player Thomas Beckman for the world premiere of the St. Roch Suite with the Prince George Orchestra. And if you're thinking, enough, just bring her on already, here she is, Jude Neale.
Hi, everyone. Oh, it's good to see you. Really good to see you. Lovely to be here tonight. I wrote this book called Impromptu, based on last year's poetry prompts in International Poetry Month. They put up writing prompts every day, and I wrote to them every day for a month and came up with 30 poems, but I was so inspired by it, I wrote 17 more and came up with a book, which was published by Ecstasis Editions again. That's where you can get it, from Ecstasis Editions. Well, I'm going to read to the prompt first, and then the poem. Prompt 41. Tell of a trip using images writing, choosing one of your senses. And this happened to me last year. Naxos. My head throbs just behind my eye, a wash of red and shadow. It was my fault, drinking the Retsina in the bar overlooking the azure ribbed sea. I had forgotten that transformation is transitive, so I said, yes, to more. The feeling of soaring away from my body tricked me to believing in flight. The bouzouki and sun and impossible sky all conspired to one more round of toasts. And I laughed at the waiter who pulled me up to mark the beats with my outstretched arms and shuffle of feet. Circular celebration and sweat trickled between my breasts. I was lifted by the heat and that sweetness of momentary perfection. Just before I passed out, skirts still dancing in the breeze. Thank you. Next one's from prompt 45. And the prompt that day was, answer a child's question with a story. And this is called The Children's Wishing Moon. Where is the moon, Mummy? She's waiting for you to see. so she can hang like a paper lantern in the western sky and creep into your crib, stroking your cheek with her cool fingers of light. She embraces the rise and fall of your quiet breath and outlines your face with silver. The sheer curtains riffle in the breeze, and moon shadows dance on your wall. Little one, the moon will follow you wherever you happen to go, making the way clear to fall and rise again. She gives you second sight to see the cow jumping over the moon, and the little dog laughs to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Thank you. The next one is based on a prompt about color and texture. It exactly was this: describe a scene using color and texture. And I chose to write about the laneways in Vancouver. 3:30 a.m. in the city after rain. Light in an alley at night is a serious thing. It stretches the shadows and makes fistfuls of color splash onto the dumpsters that guard and serve. They become dusted with forest green, splendid against the liquid golden street. Saturated with color, in this moment, everything blooms here. Through the tangle of wires, the sky is like a new bruise. Purple, magenta, cobalt. The single streetlight drowns its reflection in the puddles that gleam, a metallic yellow. The incandescent plays an extravaganza at the secret. In between time, the laneway gleams like the Emerald City, and will soon steal the blush from this painted night. Thank you. This poem is based on take a mathematical fact and disprove it. So this is what I did. It's called the theorem. They say you can't multiply by 0, but they're wrong. 0 is the times I turn the other way when you kiss me. It's the sun floating in an azure sky, or the bell-like voice of an infant just before the latch. It's the sting of a bee in a hatchet of light. It's a child's head resting on my shoulder when she drifts asleep. 0, when multiply becomes a million slanted ways to speak the truth. It's the whale song and the last beat of a heart, the joy of first snow and the pain of release. 0 times 2 always adds up to the times I've called out to find someone was just waiting on the other side to cradle me when I fell. I enjoyed writing this one. This was probably one of the most difficult prompts to write to, but I enjoyed the challenge, and it was this. Write a poem using 2 lines from a Shakespearean sonnet and create a completely new poem. This is called
just a minute. There.
Winter gifts, that thou among the wastes of time must go, then of thy beauty do I question make. You ask me once again if I am old, and I will respond in heart and mind, I am but young. Though my skin does so gently sag, and my hair has lost its luster, still I wrap myself in perfume's gown and wonder at the simple problem of mixing identity with form. For the balance of youth and wisdom is seen to be inviolable, and yet I yearn to call back time, see myself again as blank and lovely, though I much prefer the slower dances in your arms guiding me forward. I am but a thorny rose whose blossoms fair and sweet doth bloom in the deepest days of this long winter. Thank you. Prompt 18. Today, I'd like to challenge you to write an elegy of your own, one in which the abstraction of sadness is communicated not through abstract words, but physical detail. And this was about my father. It is called Obit, February 26, 2000. Today, we cremated him in his best Armani suit. Had it dry cleaned too. The trace of ash from his pipe was gone. We placed around his neck his loyal Order of Mason's tie with his favorite Windsor knot. My fingers fumbled when I placed my love letter into his breast pocket. The red rose from the garden, Mum tucked into his jacket. His black dress shoes were polished. It stained my skin the color of his hair that I clipped off and put in my purse next to the lighter I had given him for Christmas. His face was cold and vacant. He had nothing more to tell me that I didn't already know. Where could he be going dressed so fine? He was burned until dust and became transformed into white porcelain ash. Prompt 23. I'd like to challenge you today to write a poem about any living thing. And I chose to write about this when I could have written about my dog, but I wrote about dragonflies. Dragonfly, iridescent and blue, your colors reflect on the tip of my oar. Water streams down the wood, and you lightly perch on my wrist. I would trade my skin for your shimmer today. You hover over the lake, gazing at the surface for bugs and a branch to watch out from. I am thrust back to prehistoric times as I take in your carapace and long insect legs. You have been here since the earth was young. You were a bouquet of purple, red, yellow, blue, flashing and sparkling through the morning mist. Time traveler, you saw what was before. Did No one gasp in admiration at the glory of your flight or your ability to skim the humid air, collecting moisture on your painted wings. I take a picture and you're gone. The still beauty of you remains indelibly stamped on my empty hand. Thank you. Prompt 11. Talk about where you are from using snippets of memory. Where I am from. I am from dusty roads, trumpeted swans, and frozen lakes. A twin brother who ran from grizzly bears into my young father's arms. I am from a two-seater outhouse and the call of gray wolves. My mother dancing in the kitchen, and salmon so heavy my small arms couldn't lift them. I am from my parents' anger and my young brother's invisibility, from Sunday roast dinner and washing dishes, listening to the Saturday opera and howdy doody. I am from guilt and shame, lemon meringue pie and conditional love, too many tears and running in the dark. I am from mom's backbone and dad's quiet laugh. Days at the beach, laying on my stomach, dogs and cats and the yowl of cougars. I am from worry and love beats, the grime of London and Nanaimo. From ambition and perfectionistic drive. I am from fractured skull and ballet lessons and the endless possibilities of youthful love, marriages and miraculous babies. I am from then and there, here and now, with my story still in progress. Thank you. And the last poem I'd like to read for you was one that Cynthia Sharp loves, and so I'm going to put this one out for her tonight. It's called Changes, and it had this prompt, very short. Use if, change negative to positive. And I wrote this just before COVID, and there was a lot going on at the time that seems to be pushed to the back burner right now, but it's still there. Changes. If the dying earth were carpeted with a bright palette of wild flowers and the waters sang with wails, it would be enough for me to dress in white to marry the world again. If I could hug all the nation's peoples, I would press love like a flower into their hearts, and the tune of sorrow would dissipate. If you fell at my feet, I would carry you on my back to a resting place where you could learn about love and flourish in the bowered bed I had made for you. If I lost my voice, I would learn to give with my hand. I would fashion bracelets of gold to show you my shimmering tune. If the sun wouldn't shine, I would gather all the smiles you had saved for me and ignite the whole blessed world with my joy. If I let go of worry, I would be filled with the sacred reflection of possibilities opening like a flower. If I could, I would change it all. I would leave luminosity and light where my feet had trodden. Thank you.
Excellent. So much beautiful work there, Jude.
Thank you.
We are going to start the question and answer session if you're ready for one. I already have a couple of questions written down. So first, do you have a website where we could order your books and your EP?
You can order my books through Ecstasis Editions
Okay.
in Victoria, and my EP you can order from me.
All right.
I also have another LP out as well.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Actually vinyl or?
No, wish.
What is your email address, Jude? I'll type it in for you, okay? What is your
Okay,
email address?
JUDESCOOL
It's so true.
@hotmail.com.
It's cool.
It's cool.
Jude, I happen to know that you have a beautiful singing voice as well, and I'm sorry I missed a little bit of your presentation. Did you happen to sing anything?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No.
I'm sorry I missed a little bit. I love every moment of your performance. So
Thank you so much, Jackie. It means a lot. Yeah.
Come on, somebody's got a question for Jude. How long have you been writing poetry, Jude?
My whole life, since I was about 8. I first won a CBC competition when I was 8. They had it for children. They had write a poem about something that you experienced, and I experienced going to Blue River in the Rockies by train, and I wrote a poem about it, and it won first place.
Do you happen to still remember the poem?
Oh no, I'm sure it was terrible.
I thought it was great. So Cynthia has a question. She wants to know, how has your music background influenced your poetry?
Oh, that's a good question, Cynthia. I think the way it's infected me is by how I arrange the words on a page. If I could find a page that had the words arranged, these are all, I arranged the words on the page, if you can see.
Okay.
Quite broken up, because I operate by my breath. So everything, if you read my poems, they are line breaks, so just where you take a breath, and so anyone can read my work.
Okay. You just went off of video. There you are. You're back again.
Sorry, my fault.
Ah, there's Carl.
Where you go?
I was trying to do.
You, but
Sorry, Char.
I will demote you.
just kind of jumping back and in continuation with that last question,
Sorry.
Jude, do you rely on your ear to help write or phrase your lines?
Yes, I actually repeat my words out loud when I'm writing them down, with the cadence and the rhythm.
Yes. I am not alone.
You're not alone. Is that how you do it too, Stephen?
I think so.
No.
How many
We
books?
mumble.
How many books? And what are some of the names of your books? I'll write them down so people can look for them.
Oh boy. The perfect word collapses. Only the fallen can see. A quiet coming of light.
I've got that one.
Splendid silence. Blooming. Cantat in two voices. Impromptu. And I have one that is off to the publisher now called The River Answers, and I've just written another book, which an editor is looking at right now, called Inside the Pearl.
Wow, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Do you have a website also?
I do.
What is your website?
It's www.judeneale.ca.
Nice.
Thanks, Jackie.
Well, the Federation of BC Writers is so happy to have you in our midst. We're so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Well, you've been a big support.
Always.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
It's not me this time.
Sorry, what?
What inspired you to do poetry?
I always think of myself. I'm a lyricist, really. I like to write narrative, and I was a child of the '60s, so heavily influenced by Cohen and Mitchell and Dylan. Heavily influenced by the narrative and what you could say in a poem, and in a few words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tried longer form writing?
I have written a 10-page poem, which is recorded. It's a suite. Yeah.
The same suite.
A different with suite. This is called Wild Berry.
Oh, okay.
Jacqueline, you're so talented. You're lying down and you're doing all this typing. That's amazing.
I know. It's actually my favorite way to type is to, I lay here with one leg draped over the edge at the back of the sofa.
Jackie, you know what?
What?
I've written all of my books on my phone.
What?
Wow.
There's hope for us yet. That's amazing.
There you go, Jackie. You can your next book will be all done by phone.
All done by phone.
You first, Carl.
I don't write. Sorry.
What program do you use, Jude, on your phone?
Just Word.
What?
Just Word. Word.
Have Word on your phone? There's no excuse for any.
No.
Do you ever get stuck, and what do you do when you get stuck?
I rarely get stuck because I always have a bunch of words lined up to come out. And also I self-edit now because I got mentored by Elizabeth Harver many years ago, and she's a wonderful editor, and she taught me so much about unnecessary words, and what used to be 6-page poems were maybe a verse, and I learned to have an editor on my shoulder, always saying, no, don't put this in. I don't edit as I go. I edit in my mind and then I write it down.
Wow. I need an editor on my shoulder. That sounds great.
Yeah.
I think he'd sit on the couch. Lovely. Wonderful. What a thrill to have you here. Is everybody unmuted, you guys? Anybody have any other questions for Jude?
Did you type on your phone or did you dictate on your phone?
No, I type.
Wow.
One finger. One
Wow.
word at a time.
I think that's the way to do it, because when you're talking to your phone, it says the opposite of what you're saying, actually saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to get
But
right.
it'll make a good book that way, too.
Different.
That's so great. Is everybody unmuted so we can clap? If anybody, does anybody else have anything else? I feel like I'm hogging the questions, but it's
No, it's okay. Thank you for doing that, Jackie. Thank you for reading the chats off the questions off the chat. Thank you.
All right.
That was great.
Jude, yay!
My favorite number was 8, but now after your poem, it's 0.
Introduce you, Don. It's your turn to go.